Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. So listen, the headline is not deceiving. There really are exercises that you can implement in your program right away that'll help you hit a longer ball and truly without picking up a weight. So the exercises that we're gonna give you today will only be body weight and will require one exercise band. Literally, that's it. Now, I want to be real clear with you. When a golfer comes in the doors here at Align Fitness, we do absolutely address all the different attributes associated with golfers, and specifically, we do an assessment to figure out what they need. So it might be mobility, it might be stability, it could be core work in general, strength, power, or separation, and sometimes even balance. So there's 7 different attributes that we might address. But the most bang for your buck, if you want to hit a longer ball without putting in a lot of time and effort, there's separation exercises. So what we mean by that is we want to work on your capacity to separate your torso from your hips and your hips from your torso, and then also move your pelvis independent of the rest of your body. Those don't sound like significant things, but in your golf swing, the better you separate segments of your body, the longer you're gonna hit your ball without getting stronger or more powerful. So over the next couple minutes, we're gonna show you the key exercises that we start people with that help with the X factor, which is separation, that'll help you hit a longer ball. So please put these in your program. If they help you, please let us know in the comments section. Thanks so much. Exercise number 1. This is called the hip twister. We're gonna start in the middle, and then we'll give you a progression and a regression, and you just do what's appropriate here. So we're gonna set up in golf posture and just simply cross the arms over the chest. The goal here is that we maintain our golf posture, and we also maintain really quiet and stable shoulders. So in other words, we don't want any shoulder turn here at all. From this position, we're gonna go ahead and rotate our hips. So slow, controlled, I'm rotating my pelvis to my left and my right. I'm alternating that turn. I'm doing all I can to make sure this is truly rotary. So rotating left, rotating right, as you can see, and there's not a slide or a sway. So bottom line here is the better able you are to turn these hips without turning the torso, the better off you're gonna be. Now, if you are having a hard time doing this, there's a regression. Let's just give you a little bit of stability here. So you can just take a club, push it down into the ground lightly. Now, the harder you push down, the more help you get. And now all of a sudden, it should be a little bit easier for you to separate, rotating the hips without turning the torso. Now, at the same time, if we want to make this harder, all right, now let's give you a progression for this. So let's say that the standard version was too easy. Here's what we do. So we're gonna actually keep the stick that we used in the assisted version of this. We're gonna put that on the ground out in front. We're not quite in golf posture, a little taller in this scenario. I'm gonna take the instep of this foot and connect it to the inside part of that knee. So I am right there and I'm connected. My goal from here is to turn my pelvis once again without turning my torso. So if you find this really challenging, the other one was too easy, you bump this out a little bit wider, you get a better base of support, exercise just got easier. To make it harder and harder, well, eventually you progress this to the point where either that stick is in line with your foot, or you actually get rid of that altogether and we're turning that pelvis without turning the torso. So that's exercise number 1. Here comes number 2. Here's the second exercise for better separation. So we're gonna turn our torso without our hips. So we're gonna go back to the same position again. All this stuff starting out of our golf posture. So here I am in golf posture, arms are crisscrossed. Now, I want a shoulder turn, I do not want a hip turn. So from the hips down, I'm simply a statue. I'm gonna pick a spot in the ground, focus my attention on it. Slow, controlled. I'm turning them to my backswing. You can see how this shoulder is going underneath my chin, and then I'm transitioning into my finish. At least that's for me as a righty. So you can see that there's truly a shoulder turn here. I'm not just shrugging my shoulders. That's a common compensation that people will do when they don't do a good job of this. Now, one of the ways that you can make sure you're doing this correctly is holding a bar across your chest. It'll help you make sure that you're actually on the right plane. So I'm gonna go right back to the same thing. There I am. And now that I've got this bar, if I shrug, I'll see the position of that bar change tremendously. It'll be really obvious to me that I'm just no longer on the appropriate plane. So there's the baseline. If you want to make this a little bit easier, because you're having such a hard time stabilizing your lower half, all we would do is take this to a half kneeling position. So I'm now going to kneel. We're still going to keep this at the chest because there's still some value in that. And I'm just going to turn, but I'm only going to turn over top of my knee. And I don't want that knee to follow me. So it's slow, controlled. I'm bracing my glutes, bracing my abs a little bit to help create some stability down low. And I'm just turning my chest over the knees. So that would be a regression to make this a little bit easier. Now, let's say you actually want to advance it, you want to make it a bit harder. So here's the advancement. We're going to add a balance component to this exercise. So still going to get into that golf posture position first. So I'm going to cross arms, my arms over my chest, but I'm going to go on one leg. So from this balanced position, I'm trying to accomplish the same thing. It's just that slow, controlled torso turn and doing all I can to separate my torso from my hips. So 3 different versions of the same exercise. Give it a try. All the exercises I give you today, I'm not going to lie, this is by far the most awkward. I do not recommend doing this one in public. So what we want to do here is tilt the pelvis forward and backwards. So I always give the same analogy. So if you're a client of mine, you've heard this before. Pretend like the pelvis is a bowl of water. When we naturally set up, there's a little bit of water spilling out of the front of the bowl. What we're going to do in this exercise is we're going to exaggerate the tilt of the pelvis forward so more water spills out of the front of the bowl. That's an anterior tilt. Then from there, we're going to go into a posterior tilt. Really, we'll probably get to about neutral. So now think about it like this. There's no more water spilling out of the bowl. This is an important move because when you transition from the top of your backswing to the point of impact, your pelvis naturally goes from an anterior pelvic tilt to a posterior pelvic tilt. And if you can't do that, you run into a host of issues. So the standing version of this looks like so. Golf posture, arms crossed. I'm going to stick my tailbone back and behind, like I want to point it to the wall behind me. This is the anterior tilt. More water spilling out of the front of my bowl. Now slow and controlled, I'm taking that pelvis underneath me. Now the real challenge on this is trying to do this without having your torso move and without much movement of your lower body. So I recommend this and really all the separation type drills, do them in front of a mirror or put your phone on selfie mode so you get some visual feedback and you get a better sense of whether or not you're doing this well or poorly. If you're doing it poorly, that's okay, we just need to regress it. So the regressions are like this. 1, we go to our knees and we work on that same pattern. A little bit easier there. If it's still hard for you, you actually go ahead and get yourself to the ground. Then we're just doing pelvic tilts from right here. Knees bent, feet down. And here I compute a little differently. I think about taking out the curvature of my lower back. That's my posterior tilt. And then my anterior tilt is I'm increasing the curvature of my low back. So I'm back and forth. All right, so there's your pelvic tilt. Do whichever version is appropriate. All right, so this is going to be our first loaded separation exercise. So in this scenario, I'm going to hook a band up. It's going to be off to my side, like 90 degrees off to my right in this case. And I set that when I want to rotate to my left. Now, this is something that you should do in both directions optimally. So I'm going to set myself up with a nice tall femur, or a nice tall right thigh in this case. And notice that my right knee is down. That's my inside leg, the one that's closest to where the band's anchored to. That's always going to be the case. So that's always the down knee. The up knee is always the one on the outside. We want to get to like a 90-90-90 hip, knee, and ankle position. So right around here is an optimal position where I'm nice and tall. So we're not thinking about golf posture in this scenario. We're going to be tall through our torso. We're simply going to grip, and obviously if you handle, it's fine to have a different hand position on this. But slow and controlled, our goal is to rotate over top always of that stable knee. So I would never go the other way because I don't have enough stability. Throughout this, I need to brace my glutes and brace my abs to help create some level of stability down low. The goal is like all these other drills have been. I want no movement down low at all. And I want to have very controlled and methodical turn up top, stemming from my middle spine. So I'm not yanking on this with my arms. I'm turning, and my arms happen to be attached to my torso, and my arms happen to be holding that band. So think about it like that. The movement, the work should come from here, not from the arms. So this is something that we would do on both sides. And everything that I've showed you today, sets of 10 to 15 in both directions, if it's a unilateral exercise, would be ideal. Put this guy in. This is the first one you're going to feel like you're challenged at least a little bit. All right, everyone, those are our starter exercises. So if you have any question about where to put this in, assuming you're already working out, I would put all these exercises in early in your day, not late in your day. So if you're going to do some, let's say, mobility work and core work first, maybe a little like light cardio, I am good with that. but then that would be the place that you put it in next. I wouldn't go after heavy strength training or really heavy cardio and then try to do these exercises. There's a skill component to this that you're working on. And no matter what we do, when we are fatigued, it's a little bit harder to perform a skill the way we want to perform that skill. So I'd rather you go into this fresh, high attention to detail in all the scenarios where you possibly can. Get yourself in front of the mirror or put your phone in selfie mode, because if you're not really watching how well you're separating, you're likely not separating well and you're likely just wasting your time. So plug this in your program. Please let me know how it went. I'd love some feedback, so always feel free to reach out. Thanks so much.